Today, we are digging into the incredible story of a lost African metropolis, a massive hub for global trade that was thriving over 1,000 years ago. And then, it just vanished. Not only from the landscape, but from memory itself.
So let's just start with this question. Imagine a bustling city, right? It's connected to Persia, to China, to Egypt, and then it just disappears. I don't mean just buried. I mean completely erased from the stories and the songs of the people who lived right on top of it for centuries. I mean, that's the core mystery of Unguja Ukuu.
You know, if you were to visit this spot today, this is what you'd see. It's just this quiet, overgrown piece of land. It looks peaceful, totally unassuming. But right under the surface, that's where the evidence of a massive city lies. A city that completely rewrites the history of East Africa.
Okay, let's really dive into this, because this is the heart of the puzzle. The oral traditions on Zanzibar, the histories passed down from generation to generation, they're completely silent about this place. So for archaeologists, the challenge wasn't just where do we dig, it was how do you excavate a history that no one even remembers? Especially one that wasn't carved in stone, but was built from mud and earth.
So yeah, this forgotten metropolis, it presented this huge enigma. A city that was so important, but somehow so completely wiped from the historical record.
So how did they do it? How did science start to piece together the ghost of Unguja Ukuu? Well, the investigation was this masterclass in modern archaeology. It was almost like they gave the Earth a CAT scan,
It was this really clever multi-step process. First, they just walked the area, field walking, keeping their eyes peeled for any little clue on the surface, maybe a piece of a pot or a weird bead. Then came the high-tech stuff. They drilled over 200 of these super narrow cores to map out all the layers of soil, the stratigraphy. And finally, they used these resistivity surveys, which pass a tiny electric current through the ground to see hidden walls and foundations, all without digging a single major trench.
And check this out. Here's what all that work revealed. On the left, you've got one of their survey maps, and on the right, that's the data showing how deep the archaeological layers go. By putting all this together, they didn't just find some small village. They mapped a massive 17-hectare site. To put that in perspective, that is the size of about 30 football fields. A real city was hiding there, right in plain sight.
But mapping the city size, that was just the start. The real story, the lives of the people who were there, that was waiting in the clues they left behind.
And wow, what a treasure trove it was. The small test pits they dug just unleashed this flood of artifacts. And they didn't paint a picture of some simple farming village. They showed a complex, sophisticated, and incredibly well-connected society.
It all starts right here with the local pottery. Just look at the different shapes and those intricate carved decorations. This is not basic everyday stuff. This is the work of skilled artists, the product of a really vibrant indigenous African culture that had its own unique style. But mixed in alongside all this local pottery, something else started showing up in the dirt. And what they found next is what turned this local story into a truly global one. Take a look at this. This beautiful jar, covered in this incredible blue-green glaze. This was not made in Zanzibar. This is from Sasani in Persia, modern-day Iran, and it dates all the way back to the 8th century. This one object is basically a receipt for a journey across the Indian Ocean 1,300 years ago. And the connections didn't stop there. They also found this, fragments of elegant yew ware. Just stop and think about this for a second. This pottery traveled thousands of miles, all the way from Tang Dynasty China to end up in a city on the coast of East Africa. That is just an astonishing testament to how far their trade network reached.
And to top it all off, they uncovered bits of high-quality glass, like these beads and vessel fragments, in styles that point all the way to Egypt. So here's the bottom line. When you put all these clues together, Unguja Ukuu wasn't on the edge of the world. It was a central hub, connecting entire continents.
Okay, so we know this was a thriving global city. But what was life actually like for the people who called it home? Let's try and reconstruct their society.
First, let's just talk about scale. At its peak, archaeologists estimate that Unguja Ukuu was home to nearly 5,000 adults. Now, for that time period, this was no village. This was a significant urban center,
absolutely buzzing with life.
And they ate well. The animal bones they found basically give us a direct look at their menu. They had this rich and varied diet, feasting on reef fish like parrotfish and things like sea turtles and dugongs. They also kept livestock, goats, cattle, chickens, and they hunted small game from the bush like the tiny Sunni antelope.
Their economy was complex too. They weren't just bartering, they used currency. But this is where it gets really fascinating. They found these plain copper pieces. Now hang on, because here's the incredible link. The oral history of Tumbatu, the island power that rose after Unguja Ukuu fell, tells stories of people rubbing the inscriptions off ancient coins to use as medicine. So, are these the coins they were talking about? It's a tantalizing link between the archaeology and what might be a lingering, scrambled memory of this forgotten city.
So you have to wonder, if it was so big and important, why did it vanish so completely from memory? Well, a key reason is what it was made of. For a long time, archaeologists defined African cities by their stone buildings. But Unguja Ukuu was built mostly out of mud and timber. It was perfectly functional, sure, but it wasn't durable. Once it was abandoned, it basically just melted back into the earth, which is exactly why it was overlooked for so long.
So let's put it all together. The city's rise and fall, it doesn't just solve a puzzle. It gives us a whole new verdict on history. And it leaves us with a brand new mystery to solve. Okay, this right here is the most important takeaway. For decades, the story of cities on the Swahili coast was thought to begin around the year 1000 AD, with those famous stone towns like Tumbatu and Kilwa. Unguja Ukuu proves that timeline is just wrong. It was thriving as a major urban center as early as 500 AD, a full 5 centuries earlier. It represents an entire lost cycle of urban history that we knew nothing about.
So, the crucial point is that we have to redefine what we even mean by urbanism. It is not just about stone buildings. It's about a high concentration of people, a hub for resources, specialized crafts like metalworking, and most importantly, connections to global trade. And by that definition, Unguja Ukuu had it all. It was, without a doubt, a city. But, as is so often the case in history, solving one mystery just reveals another. Around 900 AD, Unguja Ukuu was suddenly abandoned. Why? Was it internal conflict? Did their industries, like all the ironworking, destroy the local forests? Was it an attack? Maybe a combination of all of it. The truth, for now, is still buried with the city. The story of Unguja Ukuu is just such a powerful reminder that history isn't a finished book. It's a bunch of fragments we're constantly piecing together. It proves that entire chapters of human achievement can be totally lost, which leaves us with a final big question. What other great cities, what other forgotten histories are still out there, just waiting beneath our feet?